Good morning, students. After yesterday's video on bile, today we'll be learning about the process of digestion of fat. So, I have put a very funny picture over here. Why? Because this picture is very much pertinent, and we can actually decide different thing with this picture. We can just say different thing with this picture. See, over here there are fatty foods. uh, we all are fatty foods. So two things can be determined from this picture. First is that the person is old, the person is overweight, and so she's controlling herself by not taking this fatty foods and tied a mask around, okay, so that she can't eat it. But another thing is that during this corona times, what is happening, we are putting on this mask which are actually preventing us to buy food from outside, and all these fast foods we are not taking, and hence we can actually save ourselves getting fat like this. But jokes apart, today we'll start with the digestion of the fat. Like if we take this kinds of fatty foods, how we will digest it, how we will absorb it, because we know that fat is a very concentrated source of energy. It gives 9 kilocalorie of energy, right, per gram. So how this 9 kilocalorie can be achieved? That can be achieved by only when the fat is getting absorbed in the blood. So next what we have is that we have fatty foods through fish, through avocado, mainly oil, olive, nuts, okay. But what we need in what form does it uh, that is get absorbed in the blood? That is in the form of fatty acids and glycerol. So we need to convert this oil, fatty acid, this form to this glycerol and fatty acid for better absorption. Whenever we'll get this stage, then we can actually uh, get the functions of the fat. Okay, so let us start. No, over here it will be fat. They have written it wrong. Okay, so this is fat digestion. Very bad handwriting. I'm very bad at cursors. Okay, so this is a fat digestion. So in mouth there is no fat digestion. In the buccal cavity, there is no fat digestion. So straight away it moves through the pharynx to the esophagus. It moves into the stomach. In stomach, we have this gastric lipases, but gastric lipase also, they don't have a great functions on this fat. So what happens? This they only denature some of the fat. So small amount like carbohydrate, they just hydrolyzes some amount of fat. But what happens whenever we are taking fat over here in the through mouth, our bloodstream, they instigate the cholecystokinin. When the CCK is stimulated, what happens? This CCK stimulates the brain. That okay, brain, we must secrete bile because fat is there. So the CCK is stimulated and bile is secreted from the liver. So what happens? This fat, with the help of this bile, they are emulsified and form fat droplets. We have discussed in detail about the emulsification. Sometimes from gallbladder also the stored bile come. Okay, so fat, with the help of this bile, they are emulsified and they are formed small fat droplets on which this pancreatic lipase is actually act. So fat, after the emulsified fat, they on it the pancreatic lipases act and they form the diglyceride. On it again the pancreatic lipases act, forming the monoglyceride and ultimately to fatty acid and glycerol. Uh, the previous slide I show you the fatty acid and glycerol. In that form the fat gets absorbed into our body. So emulsification process I've already discussed last day. Just the hydrophobic part and the hydrophilic part. The hydrophobic part, that means the fearful part of the fat, they get absorbed with the fat molecules and they form this emulsified droplet. So you can see that we eat fat as a clumped fat. When the bile is acting on it, the fats get separated, and after this fat gets separated, the enzyme can act upon it very nicely and they gets converted to this fatty acid. So this is basically the form by which emulsification is done, and after that the enzymes act on it for the fat digestion. Next, what we have, as I said, that there is no no lipase is there in the saliva, so there is no digestion of fat in the buccal cavity. Gastric lipase hydrolyzes some amount into monoglyceride and fatty acid, but the main function is done in the small intestine with the help of this pancreatic lipase. It is also known as the steepsin. Okay, pancreatic lipase is also known as steepsin. They both can act on, she can act on both lower and higher fatty acid, that means with high chain, long chain fatty acids and small chain fatty acid. So emulsified fat, on that steepsin acts, making fatty acid and diglyceride. Again diglyceride, pancreatic lipase, that is steepsin, is acting fatty acid and monoglyceride. Again monoglyceride on pancreatic fatty acid and glycerol. Again, so this thing is that which the whole process is actually being acted upon in steps by the pancreatic lipase and forming diglyceride to monoglyceride, monoglyceride to finally glycerol and fatty acid. Okay, next, what pancreatic juice, again you know that it acts in the alkaline medium. It contains phospholipase which act on phospholipid. As you can understand, this is substrate based enzyme. So phospholipase, they act on phospholipid, and cholesterol esterase which acts on cholesterol, because you can see again this is substrate based and producing lysolecithin and lysocephalin. So these two are very important. These are very important, lysolecithin and lysocephalin. So pancreatic juice, again they have this phospholipase which acts on phospholipid, cholesterol esterase which acts on cholesterol, producing lysolecithin and lysocephalin. And again some part of the fat, which is, suppose if some monoglyceride and fatty acid has missed being digested, then it moves into the succus entericus. Succus entericus juice again act on that to form this fatty acid and glycerol. Ultimately this fatty acid and glycerol is produced to get absorbed into the blood. And next, what is formed, this fatty acid and glycerol, they form this missile through which they move the blood and the cell barrier. Okay, the cell and the blood barrier. So that is all about the digestion of fat. Please go through the digestion of fat very well. If you have any problem, please do ask me. Thank you so much.